Squid Game Season 3. Have you ever watched something so disappointing that you just wanted to give up on it completely, only to realize later that maybe the show isn't broken, but that maybe the show was just too honest? That's how I felt about this season of Squid Game.
Wow! Who saw that coming?
I'm not gonna talk about these guys. Also, big spoiler warnings for seasons 2 and 3. The endings felt empty, the arcs unfinished. It was deeply uncomfortable. But then it hit me. Maybe that's just the point. Whether we like it or not, Squid Game Season 3 feels uncomfortable for us because it feels too real. Let me explain. When we watch stories, we crave closure. We want characters to grow, to win, to mean something for us. Because deep down, we need to believe that our world works that way too. And when it came to the finale of Squid Game, we wanted that comfort, that closure. But the season refused to give us that. And in doing so, it might have just become one brutally honest portrayal of modern life. In this video, I'm going to be exploring why the disappointment of the show itself might actually be the message, and why the show made Gi-hoon fail, intentionally created broken character arcs, and what that all reveals about the show's creator himself, who is seemingly trapped inside his own creation. Stripped of its filters and happy endings, the show's chaos and lack of catharsis could be reflecting deeper truths about us and the world we live in. Squid Game is no longer our fairy tale, but our mirror. Let's get into it. But before all that, if you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a like and a subscribe. Thank you, and let's keep going. First, let's break down how Season 2 actually sets up this expectation for us. The story structure, bait and switch. Season 2 ended at arguably the lowest point in the story, a climax of negativity with a cliffhanger leaving us yearning for more from Season 3. From a general screenwriting and storytelling perspective, things would usually start getting a little better from here. If we combine both Season 2 and 3 into one long season, Season 2's ending would be a midpoint, where we get to our lowest point. Gi-hoon fails at his coup, and his best friend shot. And if Gi-hoon's been losing up until now, the trend would usually start curving upwards. He starts winning little by little, until the end where he triumphs. And this applies for the other storylines as well. That would be our expectations. And even though Season 3, we know a lot of these characters will die, but it's as if the show is trying its hardest to make us hope for satisfying and fulfilling endings for these characters, but then strip it all away from us in ways we least expected it. During this, we witness so many of the developed character arcs crumble right before us. Meanwhile, so many of the most hated characters get to survive for longer and have the last laugh. This isn't usually what we expect from shows, and even if the show is trying to prolong the villains to give us a bigger payoff at the end, we really don't get that here. The payoff doesn't satisfy us, really at all. The only positive thing happens with Gi-hoon's newfound determination when Junhi's baby was born. So overall, the tone of Season 3 feels way more low, pessimistic than we're used to. All of this and more leaves us empty-handed and frustrated. These would be inexcusable in a normal show, but considering the staggering amount of disappointment going on here, I couldn't help but wonder if all of this might be intentional. So I asked myself more and more, why did the show do this? The show's original purpose is to be an allegory for our world's capitalistic system. But as Gi-hoon turns into a symbol of hope, we seem to forget that the game itself runs too deep and powerfully, and that no one has really cracked the surface of it. Much like our own world, it seems like as much as we do to escape or fight, we're all still living within our versions of the game. And with this, we get to the Pain of Realism. Season 3 denies us closure, because that's the uncomfortable truth we witness every day. Fiction provides closure. Real life extends beyond. So when this season reminds us that things are not as optimistic as they might seem, it hurts. The show's creator, Hwang Dong-hyuk, interviewed with Hollywood Reporter, stating that his original plan was to have a happy ending, with Gi-hoon surviving, but then he felt it wasn't appropriate for the tone of the story, considering the socio-political context of the world as well. Thus, Gi-hoon fails, and many character arcs were given this treatment as well. We could point to so many of them here and analyze how they each sustain this idea of realism over fiction. Junho and Inho's storyline is arguably the most disappointing one, because the storyline spanned across the entire 2 seasons, building up the expectations for a huge payoff, both for Junho finding his brother and revealing more about the frontman's identity. I'm blowing the cover off of this game. But the lackluster ending culminates in basically a stare down. And that's about it. Everyone who watched this was frustrated to say the least. The build-up was intense and the payoff was a whimper. It feels empty, but maybe that's because it was trying to say something through its emptiness. Justice in our world is rarely swift and clean, and regardless of how much certain people try to reimagine the system, those in power will ultimately find ways to evade that responsibility, sacrificing the pawns for the protection of their own power. Something interesting here is we witness Frontman when he first entered the game, given the choice between a fair game or the chance to cut down his opponents. We see him throw away his morality, killing his competition, as someone who's given up on humanity completely. But the ending, where he takes Juni's baby and leaves it with Junho along with the prize money, represents a little bit of that hope, that there's still something in there, that there's still a little bit of love inside him. The two brothers' final and only confrontation, where Junho finds Frontman while standing far away from each other on an imminently destructing island, becomes a strong symbol that reminds us that even when you uncover the truth, power finds a way to bury it again. The failure here is authentic and true, not simply an oversight in the writing process. Hwang himself even wished that he could have developed the story more, but then again, that leaves more mystery to be uncovered. Yong Sik was one of the most heartbreaking characters for me, especially in the scenes leading up to his death in hide and seek. We rooted for him to break free from his mother's shadow and his past, to finally stand up and protect her, instead of the other way around. But when time really came, he couldn't do anything. He froze, caught between fear and morality. His courage failed him, and his nerves coddled him. Thus, in a sense, his failure isn't bad character writing, but more of a manifestation of a character that is cursed to never change. He doesn't just get better because the story wants him to get better. Because many of us feel like Yong Sik, paralyzed between doing the right thing or surviving another day. His cowardice took over, and with desperation, he does this. A truly desperate and cowardly man, coming to a tragic but realistic end. His mother protects the infant by killing her own son. Yong Sik never got to fulfill his change, because to a character like him and many others, change is basically impossible, and they never escape their past. Oh, Minsu. Minsu was supposed to be our redemption arc, a man quickly pushed over the edge by the villains of his life.
You can't do it, my bro, Minsu.
We wanted so desperately to see him take up the sword and break this cycle of inaction. And unlike Yong Sik, he does change, but not in the way we expected him to. Instead, he collapsed under his guilt, and as his fear consumes him and rage builds inside, he numbed himself with drugs and blindly stumbled his way to the final games, being consumed along the way by self-loathing. He did survive for quite a while, but not as a hero. He's a husk of what he used to be, and a ticking time bomb of trauma. And when he finally fell, it's because he lost himself long before that. The demons that have haunted him all his life became the ultimate downfall. He neither stood up to those who disrespected him, nor did he repay those who gave him their kindness. That's not the satisfying character growth we wanted, but again, it's painfully true to life. Myungi. He teeters the line for us. We wonder if we could ever believe that he's a changed man, and that his heart is in the right place for the right person, or if he's simply just hiding his selfish motives. He's always said that he's trying to protect Juni and step up to be the man she needs, changed for the better. We get glimpses of that, but time and time again, his actions do not come through. They don't seem to be coming from a place of compassion, but from a greed that guides him closer to self-destruction. We do see some honesty in his eyes, but none in his actions. Someone whom we thought could have been a change for good has already descended far past the point of coming back, revealing only his darkest, most desperate side at the very end. Adding to another one of those characters that we had hoped and wished to be someone good, he failed especially as a father to his child, never even touching the baby once since her birth. This leads me to the infant. Juni giving birth in the middle of the games is surprising for shock value, but it also helped show the way people's moralities are truly twisted by money through the way everyone else reacts to the baby.
How about having the baby play as player 222?
Player 222 is back from the dead.
This is the baby's true purpose in the show. The games didn't stop. Everything kept on churning despite the baby's existence. She represents the future generation born into this chaotic system alongside the deaths and misery of everyone else, despite being completely innocent. Sure, one could argue that the baby makes the plot easier, because of course she has to survive somehow till the end. We can't hurt the infant. But really what Huang is able to do is to show us the pains that the few have to go through to protect her. The sheer amount of effort it takes just to ease out a bit of humanity for the baby's protection. This just goes to show the potential for good even a single person has if they just step up to the fight, and the immense power everyone has if they all just united. Yet, there will never be unity, just because human nature in this scenario doesn't allow it. Finally, Gi-hun sacrifices his life to save the baby, leaving all of his hopes in his fight, symbolically and literally to the future generation. All of this setting up characters to succeed only to have them fail, and the fact that all of this culminates in a losing battle reveals a pattern that can be traced with Hwang Dong-hyuk's own journey in making his own show. Trapped in his own show, Hwang Dong-hyuk's journey to Squid Game is a story of endurance. It took him more than 10 years to get the original Squid Game script off the ground, as he wrote it in 2008 when he was broke and struggling. It sat untouched because studios thought it was a dumb idea, until Netflix hesitantly greenlit it years later. To everyone's surprise, the show became the most watched show in Netflix history, and of course Hwang felt like he had finally hit the jackpot, much like Gi-hun from the show. But of course, this success came at a price. Everyone wanted more, and fast. Hwang was given the green light for the next season, but he had only 6 months to write the next one, deciding later to split those 13 episodes into 2 seasons. It was a brutal creative process, rewriting scenes as the shoot went on and new ideas constantly flowed in. Hwang found himself caught between studio and audience expectations and his own creative integrity. In his own words, "At first I was worried that people might not like it, and then came the pressure of people liking it too much, and feeling like I had to meet their expectations. It felt like I was carrying a huge load on my shoulders for 6 years. The weight of creating under commercial demand was exhausting." And this exhaustion seeps itself into the storytelling of Season 3. Whether consciously or not, we feel his characters getting crushed by the systems they try to fight, made by a creator whose creativity is pressured by the system he's critiquing. We witness beautiful character development and potential led down darker paths, or cut short before real growth happens. Many storylines ending without satisfying resolutions, trying to appease the story, the audience, and Netflix all at the same time. The creative momentum gave way to fatigue, and the show became almost meta because of this. The same capitalist drive that's driving Hwang to make more of the show is now reflected in the show's very form. Season 3 became the struggle it tries to tell. A story and a creator both pushed into burnout. Thus we witness an unsatisfying but ultimately realistic ending to a show, all except the torch of hope that Hwang passes down to the younger generation to continue the fight and the message in the form of the infant. And of course the American spin-off, baby! Let's go! Yes, American version. Everything needs an American version. And yeah, this has really been my feelings about Squid Game Season 3 after a few months of sitting on it. I don't know, I'm nervous to see, I'm excited to see what the US version does. I heard David Fincher is going to be part of the creative team, so that's actually pretty exciting. But we'll see. If you've made it this far, thank you. Let me know if you have any thoughts on any upcoming shows or movies. And don't forget to like and subscribe. See you in the next one. Bye bye.